Midnight in Paris from 2011. Quick log line. While on a trip to Paris with his fiance's family, a nostalgic screenwriter finds himself mysteriously going back to the 1920s every day at midnight. Starring Owen Wilson, Rachel McAdams, Kathy Bates, long list of people in this movie. So yeah, as an intro movie to him, I'm pretty sure I'd seen some stuff of his before, but I can't remember it really. I'm sure I'd seen scenes of Annie Hall or, Gershwin from Manhattan and such, but I
Hmm.
don't think I'd seen a full movie start to finish. And all of these themes in this movie about nostalgia, wanting to find a different time that might make you happier than the time that you're in is something that I really connected with. And it sort of opened my mind to something which is the true message of the movie is that actually, no, you have to make happiness in the now. Because guess what? When you go back or go ahead or wherever in that time that you think might be the happy time, soon that'll become the now and you'd want to go somewhere else. So it has something really deep to say. But like I was saying earlier, it's happening in this really fantastical kind of concept of this guy Owen Wilson's character like jumps into this car and is taken to these places in the 20s and meets all his literary idols and all these people are hanging out. And even though this is, and it sort of plays a trick with the audience too, like is this really happening or is this just in his mind or is this, what is this, and I love that sensation that the movie is able to create. And then you're excited. Oh, who else is he going to meet? And do they know what's happening in his current world? And they sort of do because the two time frames then start to connect in a way. And then, of course, what's happening in his current life of, Rachel McAdams and her family who are sort of right wingers, and there's a lot of digs at them. And then there's Michael Sheen, who's sort of the pseudo intellectual type, who's traveled a whole bunch, who's the other extreme. And it's really fun how those two sides are put against each other. And it's really fun to see Rachel McAdams, who, by the way, is brilliant in this movie. It's extremely annoying, but that's her character. Like, on one
Right.
hand, she's like, oh, if I had any more butter or cream, I'm going to die. But at the same time, she's really wowed by all the things Martin Sheen has to say, and that he's really poking fun at people, that people associate themselves with one side without really fully interrogating it, and they just seem beholden to that. Meanwhile, they are hypocrites all across the board. This is so relevant, so timely to me around now, especially the people are like, oh, I'm this, and I'm like, no, actually, you're quite rich and you have all the things, and just because you went to some rally one time, that doesn't absolve you for anything. You haven't solved any problems. You're just gonna go and have your, you know, $80 brunch right after. So, what's changed? So there's a lot of that in this movie. And then I know you said this, I agree that Owen Wilson is playing a Woody Allen surrogate, basically, but I think he does a very good job at it. This is the one surrogate which I think does a good job because it's situated in the movie really well. I think where it sticks out is where the character doesn't belong in the movie. In this movie, where this person is sort of bewildered, but is sort of not very confident, and why are you even in this marriage? There's like all of these things, and I think it works. And Owen Wilson makes him a full person, goes beyond probably what's even on the page. So I don't know. I love this movie. It's breezy, interesting, charming. Everyone's great in it. Looks beautiful. Once again, shot beautifully. All the 1920s stuff looks amazing from costume to set design and such. So yeah, it's a fun time. And of course, there's Paris and France, which is, if you want a little trip there, this movie affords you that too.
Yeah, so this is the second time I'd seen this film. The first time was
Yeah.
for our episode about travel, which recommend people go back and listen to that if you love
Oh
this movie.
yeah.
We'll talk about it in a different way. But I have to say, it was interesting too watching this in the context of the other films that I was bringing to the table, like reminding myself, oh, yeah, he has done sort of this more like sillier type, like a sleeper, like we just talked about. That's a side of Woody Allen too, because one of the things that didn't work for me the first time I saw this was sort of like the acting and the goofiness of those like characters from the past just to me seemed silly and like didn't really work with what I thought the movie was doing. And now in this time, just sort of reminding myself of like, no, like I think that's the point. Like they're not supposed to be
They're not
realistic
real.
depictions of any of these people. It's almost like characters in his head of what he might think these people are like. And then that part worked a lot more for me on the second watch, which the movie did improve in my mind in terms of what I thought about it in the second watch of it. And it was really just that getting over that of like, God, Adrian Brody's doing such a ridiculously
I know.
hammy and kind of bad parody performance of what he's trying to do there, and all that stuff just didn't work for me the first time I saw it, even though the other things that you mentioned did actually, from like the cinematography, the France stuff. But
Hmm.
now I sort of can stomach that a lot better, just reminding myself, oh yeah, this is like Woody Allen is not always been this more self-important kind of guy of these, these other movies that he's done more recently. He does have that like goofy side to him. I think that was what he's trying to do there. And I will also agree that I think Owen Wilson as a surrogate for Woody works a lot more because it kind of like tones down some of the there's such opposite personalities. Like
Yeah.
Owen Wilson would never play a Woody Allen type in any other movie. Like he's a Texas guy, you
Yeah.
know, it just does not at all strike me as someone who can spit out Woody Allen dialogue. So when he's doing it, instead of it feeling out of place, it actually makes the character more palatable to me and feel like less of a caricature, which sometimes I feel like Woody,
Right.
his surrogate characters are just caricatures of himself.
Exactly.
He feels like a more well-rounded, like actually believable character in this world. And I think that casting choice, I don't know where that came from of putting Owen in this movie, but I think it really elevates the movie.
I totally. I mean, he's worked with Julia Taylor his entire career, who's his casting director, and I would say pretty much most of his movies are cast perfectly.
Hmm.
Of course, there are misfires here and there, but like considering the amount of movies he's made, like it's amazing how he seems to have, his hand on the right person. So yeah, I agree. Like he's great. But on that point of kind of the caricatures, this time when I watched it, and I'm sure this is no hot take, maybe this is all a dream because it all happens at night. And he's like constantly thinking about his novel that he's writing. And when you're thinking about and writing something, you tend to kind of dream about those things as well. I don't know if that's what he's saying, but it could be that. And hence, in a dream, all these people will be heightened and they'll all be in one place. I was
Right.
watching this with my boyfriend who'd never seen it before, and he's like, how is it that all of these people are in the same parties all together? And I'm like, well, that's sort of the thing, because in a dream, this might happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interpretation, and the thing that's good about this movie is it could be either or. It doesn't
Right.
like the narrative device of this time traveling car that he takes and the time traveling carriage they take later in the movie to go back even further. It's something that almost shouldn't work, but you don't really think about it. It's like the
No.
tone of the movie. You're like, oh, okay, he's going back in time to like meet these, authors from the 1920s. Oh, okay. It could be a dream or it could not, but you're not like intellectually thinking about that as the movie's going on. And you just kind of go with it. And I think a lot of that too has to do with just Owen's personality and performance,
Yeah.
where yeah,
He
I'll
makes it
I'll follow him.
believable.
Yeah, it makes him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll follow this guy. I love
exactly.
Owen Wilson. He's fantastic, and I think he really works in this movie. So that casting of Owen is great. And like if this movie were made 30 years before where Woody put himself in it, I don't
Oh
think I
gosh.
would.
It would not be good.
It would be too like, self-masturbatory or something like that. These are all my idols and I get to meet them. Well, I know you're kind of doing that because it's your, your voice and Owen's character, but it doesn't feel like that as I'm watching. It feels more like, a love letter to these artists who he likes
Yeah.
and to the city. And it takes him out of the equation a little bit, which
Yeah.
is a criticism I have of a lot of his movies where he needs to be even in this movie in a way, like everyone is annoying and obnoxious except for me. Owen Wilson. Like everyone else in this movie is kind of annoying and silly, except for him. Like
I
if
mean,
if if
he's
this was
annoying
Woody, it would.
too.
Sorry,
He's annoying too, I think.
oh,
Like
I don't find him that. I just love Owen Wilson. Maybe that's
that's
I'm
because he makes
biased.
him he that's Owen Wilson's quality, but I think he's annoying too. Like, can you imagine meeting somebody like this who's just talking about nostalgia all the time and writing a book? Like this time when I watch it when they're making fun of him on when they're at Versailles, it's mean. At the same time, I was also like, yeah, if I met someone like this in real life, I would be like, it's pouring outside in France. Do you really have to walk here? Why don't we take a cab? Like, this is ridiculous, right? So, there are definitely things here like romanticized versions, and somebody who just lives in a different world. I would want to slap them and say, come back to real life.
See, I would slap Woody, but I wouldn't slap Owen. I think that's what for me is how this somehow It's again, maybe
But
my
that's
bias
what
with
makes it
Owen's
work,
personality,
you
but that
know?
is what makes it work. And that was
Yeah.
just that brilliant casting choice, which I know is a signature of Woody too, that every actor wants to work with him and he's great with actors and he's gotten some incredible performances and several
Yeah.
Oscar nominations and wins out of his cast. So yeah, I think this movie went up in my mind on this second viewing. So I'm glad you brought it back in. And I can definitely see this being the first one that you really like connected with Woody Allen on, like why then you went down that journey immediately and looking at more of his films.
I'm glad you liked it more this time.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.